Well, we're live on a Friday night. Joe Rayo and Joe Cioffi on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. It's been
Friday
a
the 13th.
Friday the 13th, and what was a very odd week. Me driving from Florida back to New York in 21 hours. The world seemingly falling apart. Uh, the stock market bounced today quite nicely, a 9% rally. So your 201k is probably now a 2.5 1k.
Huh. Now, I'm
And
going to have a whole weekend now to just for the market to like simmer, so to speak. Do you think they'll come back with a rally on Monday, or we're going to go right back into the toilet?
well, I think what's going. My guess is that this is another one of these, very sharp, rip your face off snapback rallies from these, declines. We've had a couple of them already. We had one earlier this week, and I guess a lot depends on in my never to be humble opinion. A lot depends next week on the progress of the increasing cases in coronavirus. I mean, they are going to shoot up. Do they, keep shooting up exponentially, or do they start to level off at some point? We'll see. I guess the comparison that everybody seems to be making professionally is does our does it mirror what happened in what's happened in South Korea, where they got a handle on it really early, or is it going to be something worse like it is in Italy right now, or maybe it winds up being something in between? Plus, they're going to do all this stimulus from Washington's trying to cut a deal, and they may have cut a deal tonight. I don't know. I will say this, Joe. I don't know if you saw this in the post, but it really does at least give us that there is hope in the world, because with everything that's going on, this was in the New York Post today. But the website, and you might be familiar with it or you might not. That it depends on who's watching this show. But Pornhub has decided that they're going to give free subscriptions to everybody in Italy, so that while they're, convalescing, they can watch Pornhub. You know,
This that almost sounds like something that Bob Guccione, who was the publisher of
right?
Penthouse, would have done.
Well, they're hoarding toilet paper, so I don't know. And you know that's the one thing I will not figure out. By the way, through all of this,
Is what, the toilet paper shortage?
I could kind of get it. I'm not with the bottled water stuff. I'm perfectly okay with drinking it out of the tap. Okay. Um, to me, I always envision that there's somebody over a sink in Brooklyn filling up those, plastic water bottles with water. And anyway, but all right, I can kind of understand the water part of it if you want to have extra water. That at least, I okay, I'll give you that. But I don't understand the toilet paper run. I just don't. Why would you need toilet paper for a virus for a quote flu-like virus?
I have no clue. It reminds me of back in the what was it? Back in the 70s, Johnny Carson made a flip comment about that there could be a toilet paper shortage, and literally the very next day, like you couldn't find toilet paper because Johnny,
Johnny had power.
yeah,
Johnny had power. All right, so we're heading into a weekend, and you just before we went on, you pointed out to me because you have you can show everybody your shirt,
my
your
Alaska.
Alaska shirt.
I've been to Alaska twice, and this particular winter, the National Weather Service NOAA comes out every month with a summation of the previous month in terms of weather, climate, what has happened, not just in the United States, but across all 50 states. And this particular month, they came out with the winter summation, which they said was the fifth warmest winter in the last 126 years. All the way from coast to coast, well above normal temperatures most everywhere you went. But Alaska, and why would you be surprised at this? Since we spoke all winter long about how the polar vortex was over the polar regions and literally locking up all that cold air in places that were especially north of the Arctic Circle. Alaska had their coldest winter going back to like the early and mid 1980s, this particular winter season. So
Wow.
So you go from one extreme to the other. We down here in the 48, we had a very warm winter, relatively speaking, but Alaska, not warm whatsoever.
And yet, in the meantime, I just since you bring Alaska up, Joe, I'm going to bring up. Um, I got a couple of maps to show, so hang on one second with
Who's our
respect to
friend
that.
in Wainwright, Alaska?
Alfred Phillips of Wainwright, Alaska, who's
I'm,
not. I don't see him on the board tonight. But actually,
he probably is frozen.
well, you know what? Not necessarily. I was just looking at these temperatures up there. So hang on one second. And I mean, they're not all that cold, really. Along the North Slope, temperatures are all up into the mid 20s. You know,
Okay.
the lengthening daylight now. They're 12 hours, almost to 12 hours of daylight in most places, and they're going to keep gaining, of course. But yeah, it's you know, I was a couple of cold spots. This is Arctic Village. At the Arctic Village Airport is one above. I can't really get any tighter with respect to the temperatures, but you know everybody seems to be in the reasonable 20s to even some lower 30s once you get down along the south coast. Some lower 30s there. The other thing is, Joe, from the Fairbanks office, I pull up their watches and warnings map, and the yellow here is a winter weather advisory. Now, across the U.S., when you see it, I don't know why they use different colors on this map, but their colors are different, coded a little differently because yellow is usually for tornado watches. This color here, this, how would you describe that? Red? Does that look red to you?
Red.
Reddish.
Yeah.
These are all blizzard warnings, various blizzard warnings, and yeah, they're all blizzard warnings. I thought, oh, down here they're winter storm warnings, and down here they're winter storm warnings with special weather statements. But we've got some blizzard warnings up to the north. I'm just going to pull this up because I just want to see. I always get a kick out of the forecast when you read them from up here. So, oh, that's nice. So Point Lay, so nice that they laid it twice. Point Lay. Um, South at 43, gusting to 54 miles an hour. So they got a lot of wind. Now they're only going for a 20%. Let me see, read this. I'm going to read their blizzard warning. A lot of times with these airports, where I guess wherever they locate them, oftentimes the weather conditions don't really reflect what's going on nearby. But here, with respect to the blizzard warning for northwestern Brooks Range, it's for up to 2 inches of snow expected. But
Okay.
as is obvious, with 50-mile-an-hour winds, visibilities are going to be down close to zero.
Yeah. Well, yeah, again, a lot of people, when they hear the word blizzard, immediately the connotation is, oh my goodness, you're really going to get dumped on with lots of snow. Not necessarily true. As we have said, the main concern about the blizzard is the fact that visibilities are cut down to near zero in blowing and or drifting snow. And you can even have a bright sunny day and have blizzard-like conditions. You could have a sudden gust of wind pick up snow from a nearby snow drift and blow it across your line of sight and cut visibilities down. Those are ground blizzards, and I've actually had that. I once, uh, back in the about 10 or 15 years ago, getting onto the Taconic Parkway, all of a sudden, and this was in the aftermath of a storm that dumped a ton of snow, not only on Westchester and the Hudson Valley, but also in New York City. I mean, Joe, all of a sudden, within like that, my visibility went down almost to near zero because of a gust of wind picking up a fine powdery snow and blowing it again across our line of sight.
Oh yeah, I've had it happen. I've had it happen here from time to time as well.
Right. So a
Uh,
blizzard doesn't necessarily mean a ton of snow. It just simply means that your visibility, especially, is going to be cut by again falling snow, blowing snow. It's not too pleasant when you're stuck in that situation, even for a few minutes.
Right. And with respect to other winter weather hazards, as Mark Gladfelter on the chat is pointing out, there's a lot of them on the map tonight. We've got the Central Plains under either winter weather advisories or winter storm warnings in the western part of that area. Across much of the northern half of Montana, into Washington State and Oregon. We've got winter storm warnings and a few winter weather advisories in California, northwestern and northeastern California. Many areas in the mountains, winter storm warnings, winter storm watches, and winter weather advisories. So all the action, for the most part, is in the west. We do have one working tornado watch tonight, and that's in southeastern New Mexico and in West Texas, as the severe weather that's going on there is reflecting an upper low that is coming out of the southwest, and that is going to be moving eastward overnight and on Saturday. That actually, Joe, that system is going to weaken. As we talked about this yesterday, that system is going to weaken as it moves across the lower Ohio Valley and then eventually off the Virginia coast. I thought that there might be a little bit of rain from that could get into southern Pennsylvania, southern New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, northern Virginia, West Virginia for a short time later Saturday afternoon into Saturday night, maybe more like Saturday night for southern New Jersey. But say late afternoon to late evening. It goes in and goes out, and I don't think it really is going to amount to much.
Yeah, and in terms of any kind of wintry weather on the weather map, and I'm sure we're going to jump to that in a moment, but I'm just looking here that if you want snow this weekend, maybe the place to go to is Nebraska, where they're expecting across much of the state at least 2 to 4 inches of snow, maybe a bit more, and up in the higher terrain of the Cascades, out in the Pacific coast of Oregon and into Washington and into northern sections of Montana also some pretty good snows are expected. But in our neck of the woods, in this part of the country, in the east, it don't look like there's going to be much of anything to be concerned about. Even in those places with that little ripple that we were talking about yesterday, rolling across the Tennessee Valley and toward the Virginias, that will be flattening out. Even there, I don't really see all that much, if anything, in terms of any kind of snow that you could shovel or even.
Right. I got the map up for you here now, and just like you said, uh, some higher amounts when you go up into northern Montana, a foot to a foot and a half there, and also in the Sierra Nevadas in California. I think that's a 60. I don't know what spot that is. Crescent City. I'm sorry, Carson City, Nevada. They got a 22-inch print there. I don't know if that's specifically for Carson City or not. 62 inches northwest of Carson City in the elevated areas. So that's pretty impressive. And there's a 29 print. Again, this is somewhere in the mountains as you go down through the Sierra Nevadas. I really have no clue as to what that town is.
I'm just chuckling because when you said Carson City, I'm thinking of that Bugs Bunny cartoon where Rocky sticks the gun up to Bugs Bunny and says, "All right, Rabbit, tell us what you know." I said, "Who, me? I know lots of things." And one of the things was Carson City is the capital of Nevada.
Oh God, the stuff you remember.
2 and 2 is 4.
Correct. Well, most times it is. Somebody will probably the new math they teach may say otherwise, but no matter. Just checking out here. Got a fairly nice crowd on Friday night on the chat board when weather is not exactly front and center in the news. Of course, it's always good to have a full house, and we're happy that everybody is on board tonight, including Alaska Railroad is on tonight, and Frank Riccio, and of course the chairman, Scott Briller, William Hoover, Johnny Quest, Jason Kaplan. Tim is on, and also, let's see, Justin Partridge, Chuck Cardillo, Steve Lapointe,
Tim Feldman mentions the fact that 27 years ago, we had the quote unquote storm of the century, the superstorm of '93, which you and I both worked at News 12 out on Long Island. In fact, I was there at like 6 o'clock in the morning. I was there through 6 o'clock in the evening. Norm DeVoskin came in about the middle of the day, and then lo and behold, guess what? They called you up and brought you in. I think in the late night hours from your abode do a few hours of work in front of the
I
camera.
was thrilled about it, by the way.
Why?
I really was thrilled about being called into work. I just so what you want to know. By the way, you have reminded me of something
Okay.
with regards to the blizzard of '93 because the superstorm of '93 was a huge snow producer across the deep south, down into Georgia. Many areas are getting a foot plus. I think Atlanta itself got about 4 or 5, but at the airport. But just the airport's on the south side of the city, so you just go north of there, and it was probably every bit of 6 to 12 and a foot plus just north of the city, going on up into North Georgia. But I will tell you something. Uh, I don't know if you've been to Atlanta.
I've never been to.
Uh,
Well, yeah, I've been to Atlanta at the airport. I've been
Okay,
stuck
that
in Atlanta
yeah,
for.
that doesn't count.
Yeah.
Okay, and I will tell everybody makes fun of Atlanta when they get an inch of snow there, the whole city shuts down. But I will tell you something, Atlanta. I understand now that I've been there twice. I suddenly came to the realization and made the connection on this particular trip. It is extremely hilly in Atlanta, especially the northern part of the city. Okay, is really really hilly, and I'm talking sharp, uphills and downhills. I can see where an inch of snow can wind up shutting that down because there's just no way. It, it's not just the hills are confined into one section, okay? And it's not a city like New York where, yeah, you do have some hilly areas, but much of New York City
It's pretty
is on the
flat.
flattish side. But I'm talking hills that are, you know, they go. Atlanta itself is well above sea level, and there are some hills there that go up several hundred feet or more. I drove up a couple of them. Bald Hill out here is 450 feet above sea level. I drove through a few of them in Atlanta that were far higher than that. So I, I get it when they get an inch or two of snow there, how it can shut the city down.
You know what it sounds like? It almost sounds like in a way Yonkers in Lower Westchester.
Mm.
Very, very
Yes, I think
city.
that's a perfect analogy. The
Yeah.
downtown itself is not quite like that.
Yeah.
Okay, but once you get away from the downtown and you go to the north side of town, and then you go just outside of Atlanta, if you go up toward say Marietta, which is very 15 20 minutes to the north. Yeah, it really is. It's just like that. And some of those hills go way up, and some of those hills in Yonkers are, could be ski runs.
I have a cousin who lives at the top of Height Drive. Very, very apt that the name of that road because you start down here and he's up there and you have to go up this road literally. And I don't even understand how they, when it snows or if there's ice, how do you get down or get up on that roadway? And that's
Yeah.
that's just one example. And there was it's called Yonkers is called the City of Hills,
Hmm.
and it's a good name, a good term for that.
By the way, I'm drinking. This is from the Egg Harbor Cafe in Atlanta, Georgia. It's a very good breakfast place, and
Now wait a minute,
this
Egg
is their
Harbor.
mug. Egg
Not to be
Harbor
confused,
Cafe.
not to be confused with Little Egg Harbor.
No, no, this is called the Egg Harbor Cafe, and the last time when I was there, the first time I went there, they gave me a free mug, which was pretty nice.
Hmm.
So anyway, little plug for them. So back to the weather. So we've got our weekend. We've got this weather system passing by to our south. All the snow accumulation map is not something that is relevant to us. So let's move away from that and let's go to the new GFS, where you've got this. There's this high to the north. You can actually have quite a bit of cold air that is spreading out across southern Canada and across the Great Lakes and into and from New England and bleeding southward. I have to wonder if we could have held if this weather system weren't in fact going into a ridge that's building in the upper atmosphere. If it were able to, if it were had been able to hold on to its strength, maybe this could have been a snow producer, and perhaps in a better winter overall, this would be something we'd be paying attention to. But this is just going to fall apart as it reaches the coast. I think it's pretty obvious that the upper feature is just not going to hold together.
As you said, Joe, some time back, there are some winters where even with a weak weather system, wimpy weather disturbance, it'll drop an inch or two of snow, at the drop of a pin. And then there are the other winters, and this is one of them, where no matter what you do, no matter what you try, nothing works. And indeed, with the exception of that one big storm at the beginning of December, and there was that storm that hit on a weekend, I think it was on the 19th of January, that brought several inches of snow to many spots. Aside from those two storms, everything else has been wham.
Exactly. And actually, this system coming out of the southwest is, at least this morning, is actually a bit of a powerhouse. And what's happening is, it's getting kicked out to the east, and this watch the Gulf of Mexico and how this ridge just builds during the day on Saturday night into Sunday. You can barely find, there's a little kink right there. That's what's left of that upper low that is coming out of the southwest and moving east. It's just getting flattened out. You've got another deep trough in off the west coast that's overpowering everything, and that's forcing the ridge to build. And also you have a trough off the east coast that's forcing this upper high here to build like crazy, and it just weakens that system and it falls apart.
So don't also forget the system that's affecting us now, which gave us some gusty winds this afternoon, and that big short wave passing off to the north, which a week ago was supposed to be our big snowstorm.
Correct.
Mention that. That thing, because of the lack of any blocking, that thing just zooms right past us off to our north and east. And again, that allows that big ridge over the Gulf of Mexico. It says, hey, there's nothing to impede me from getting stronger or inflating, so to speak. I'm going to do that. Boom. And meanwhile, that rather potent shortwave in the southwest, it's trying to run right into that ridge and just ends up getting all of the energy and strength sapped out of it, which is why uh, we're not going to see anything more than just a lot of clouds here tomorrow night.
We do have at least a bit of a connection coming out of northern Canada now, so that's the reason why we're seeing that colder air spreading out to the north. Got to remember too, we're almost to the halfway through the month. The average high is now up above 50.
Yes.
So seasonally adjust this. If we had this this developing upper air pattern back in January or early February, we might be able to work with it in terms of the coal that it would have produced. But this time of year, it's kind of tough. And going forward on the long range, I'm just I'm waiting to see what this run did, because it does the run before this, the 12Z run. There it is. Okay, it did do it. All right, look at this, Joe. This is at the end of the month, so this is Friday the 27th. Look how blocky it suddenly gets.
Yeah.
Okay, you've got this low that's sitting up in almost getting ready to move over Newfoundland. You have the jet suppressed way to the south. There's a ridge that's building up into Greenland over the top. Uh, it would figure that you. I mean, I don't know if this is going to be right. I'm very skeptical, and I'm very skeptical when I see a look that implies a negative or turning negative North Atlantic oscillation, because we've been down that particular road before and it never seems to happen. But look how strong this block gets. This blocking high. Look at this at the end of the month. Now look, if this verifies, you may have your shot for something, late March, early April. If this verifies, this is actually a pretty chilly, blocky look for us. So if anything's going to happen at the end of March or the beginning of April, you really need to see a setup like this.
Look at the color. What is that? Maroon for
Yeah,
Greenland?
yeah, that's a super strong. I'm very
Where were you?
suspicious.
Where were you in January and February?
Well, we saw, you know what, we had this at the end of we had this in November, especially at the end of November, beginning of December, and I think a lot of folks, myself included, for a little while thought, hey, maybe this year, after seeing I don't know how many winters now where the NAO, the North Atlantic Oscillation, has been basically absent. Maybe this would be the year that we would see it. And going into that first weekend of December with that early December snowstorm, it was there, and then it disappeared with with everything that happened with how the pattern evolved. And this is, by the way, this is because we're at a time now where the polar vortex in the stratosphere is breaking down. So it makes sense that we go into a blocky pattern in the springtime.
Right, right.
But if
Well, I've been saying I've been saying all along. Maybe this would be a bookend winter with one big storm at the beginning in December, and maybe something unusual happening late March or early April. So I guess looking at the way that block is, and again,
if it's real,
how much you're going to believe a long range prog this particular winter season. But if that verifies, you're right. There's a chance, albeit a small chance, underscore that word, small, that something might happen toward the end of the month. We'll see.
I want to just get these. Let's see how much. I don't have all the temperature anomalies. It doesn't go out. They're only out to 276, and the block doesn't show up till after that. But I will try to match it up a bit with the 12. So give me 1 second here. Uh, so if you notice, Joe, I mean, off the 12Z, which was also had a bit of a blocky signature. So starting from about day 12 or 13 and going to the end of this forecast period, it's all below normal temperatures in the
Right.
eastern part of the United States. So it actually has a cold look to things, a cold look and a cold profile for the end of the month. Just like as you know, as you said, at a time where I just want it to all go away.
Here it
Okay,
comes. Here it comes.
I've had enough because the last 2 months we've been basically sitting 2.5 months. We've been basically sitting here twiddling our thumbs. We
Right.
haven't even had near misses to look at it because nothing's been even remotely close. We'll see if this even amounts to anything. I just think it is funny if we wind up going into this for a couple of weeks at the end of March and the beginning of April. And they can't play baseball anyway since they canceled they postponed the start of the season anyhow.
Right.
So let's just real quick go through the weather for the weekend and for the coming week for next week. Excuse me. So just to back this up a bit, and let's get the 18Z up.
And I got, excuse me. Do you know something, by the way, that my daughter, who's came home this afternoon, she said every time somebody coughs in a room, they all start looking at that person who's coughing, saying, "This is, is this the virus or maybe it's something."
I
Uh,
know. Yeah, it's that. It's everybody's gotten a little more sensitive to that sort, a lot more sensitive to that sort of stuff. It'll
I got
and
to, I got
coughing.
to, yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I said I got to 72 today. The sun broke through around 2 o'clock this afternoon, and all it took was a couple hours and a good stiff westerly wind, and the temperature went boing
Yep.
right straight up.
We actually broke out into some sun around 2 o'clock here, and we shot up. We weren't that far, so we also got into the 60s. But now we're starting to cool off, and of course, we get rid of this system over the weekend, back to high pressure, and Sunday and Monday are going to be chilly days. We've got another weather front approaching on Tuesday, with some showers maybe Monday night into early Tuesday morning. Perhaps some snow up into northern New England. A lot of action going on in California and in the West. Looking at this, Joe, you got with the deep trough that's off the West Coast, just shooting short waves in one after another. So I kind of understand where they're going with the forecast for heavy snows in the areas that they have them in. And then later next week with a high going across the Great Lakes and into New England, another weak system perhaps along about Thursday. Another one follows up over the weekend, and then another high builds in after that. So it looks like the last days of winter are going to just kind of wind down the way it's been. Wash, rinse, repeat. Although in between these weather systems, it does seem like it's going to be a bit on the chilly side.
I think that over the next 7 days, by far and away the coldest night that we're going to be looking at will probably be Sunday night and Monday morning. In the lower Hudson Valley, would not be at all surprised if on Monday morning, some of you who live in those deeper rural areas, like especially north of Interstate 84, Orange County, northeastern Putnam, you may find temperatures down in the upper teens come daybreak on Monday morning. And meanwhile, coastal and urban locations probably around 30 or thereabouts. And then after that, the temperatures, at least in nighttime hours, will warm back up into the 30s, maybe even, you might not even say seasonably cold. So that one
Yeah.
shot of cold air comes in, I think, for Sunday night. And then next week, I think by next Friday, maybe not 70, but we'll be seeing temperatures jump from, let's say, near 50 on Thursday to near 60 on Friday of next week.
All right. So a little Briller Jeopardy. You ready? All
Yes.
right. So we got two of them tonight. So what was the latest date that a 6-inch snowstorm occurred in New York City,
Okay.
and how many inches?
Well, I can tell you most definitely, I know that April 6, 1982, Central Park got 9.5 inches, but maybe there might have been one that came later, even later in the month than that, that dropped even a bit more than 6 inches. So, all right, I'm going to say, since I don't know the date and I don't know the specifics, I'll just simply sit with April 6, 1982, knowing that that probably is not the one, right?
April 12th, 1875.
Okay.
10 inches.
10 inches. So it's
Yes.
as late as that, if we could still have that much snow. That's
Yes.
amazing.
Okay, now the other one is this occurred on this date in 1990. Okay, it's the earliest that it has ever occurred.
I would say the early. Well, let's see. I'll say it's the earliest that we've ever seen 80 degrees.
Yes. Okay, so now the second part of that is 80 what?
Ha! I'll take. I'll do a Maxwell Smart. I'll say 86.
Very good, very close. 85.
85.
85.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's all good.
I seem to remember, I don't know what it was within the last 10 years. I think Poughkeepsie hit 90 on March 31st one year. I don't remember the exact year, but I do remember it was an awfully warm end of March that year.
Yep. I don't know what year it was either. I sometimes I think I don't even remember what year this is.
Hmm.
So anyway, let's wrap it up. I just was wondering, weekend plans? Anything you want to shamelessly self promote?
Except the Joe Rayo Weather channel on YouTube. If you have not already subscribed,
Well, if you
please do.
haven't already subscribed, my God, what's wrong with you folks? You need to go and run to subscribe to Joe Rayo Weather. Go
I
on.
don't know what's wrong. We kind of hit a wall. Maybe it's partially my fault because I haven't done much in terms of any broadcasting this week.
Hmm.
But we soared all the way up to about 650 or 600, and since then it's been in dribs and drabs.
Yeah,
Probably.
you know what? Honestly, this week across the board, the focus on the news has been coronavirus, 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 and then of course it's been stock market, stock market, stock market, because and it's just been that's all there is, uh, really. And there's been, also, excuse me, there's been an absence of major storms
Right,
for the winter.
right.
We don't have any impending snow events here. We haven't, there hasn't really been any for much of the winter. The few systems we've had are minor. So for this time of year, the audience is it's quiet. People's minds seem to be elsewhere right now,
I don't know why, but I know why. I know why. There's one episode of The Honeymooners that keeps rolling through my head.
and that
It's
one is
it's the episode where Ralph refuses to pay the $5 increase in his rent, and Mr. Johnson puts both Alice and Ralph out on the street, and then it starts to snow on them. This is
right.
towards the episode, and then finally he's yelling at Alice. He says, "All right, I'm going to pay the $5, Alice, and I know, and you know why going upstairs to pay the $5 and for us to get back into our apartment.
Because you know that I know that you know that I know that you. What was it?
I know
You
that
get virus.
you get
Get
virus.
virus. Oh.
Somebody out there is going to play with that video and add the word corona before virus
Oh,
to.
sure. Oh,
Yeah.
no
So
question. Actually, I haven't seen it yet, so it's your opportunity to go ahead and try and do that.
I'm not technically inclined, so I'm not going to.
Oh, you can't do one of those meme things?
No, but somebody will. You know, there's somewhere out there on YouTube. I know somebody had taken away Ralph's mother-in-law, and he's yelling at the mother-in-law, "You're a blabbermouth." Erased her and put Donald Trump there instead.
Ha!
I don't know if you've ever seen that, but
No,
that's
I haven't seen that one.
all you have to do is go on YouTube and just type in Ralph and Donald Trump, and you'll see it. Whether or not you're a Democrat or a Republican, it's still with Jackie Gleason doing his thing. It's still a very funny meme.
I'm yeah. Whenever I look at that, funny is funny, regardless of whatever your political affiliation is. You know, I just the fact that it's politics alone. I think I also, I think that's totally fair game, and everybody should have a sense of humor about it. Just give me 1 second here, folks, on the audience. I do want to share uh, a link. 1 moment. There
Is
we
this
go.
is this the Discord link?
Yes, I did give you the Discord link,
Yes.
and I want to share it with everybody here. So hang on 1 second, because I saw that Tim Veltman put it up, but sometimes if the links don't always come up on the chat, so I'll put it up also. For those of you who don't know, on Discord, there is a perpetual chat that is for this channel, and you can just jump on it at any time and chat away about whether, if you've got graphics you want to put up, you got maps or something interesting, you can put it up, or you can talk amongst yourselves. Sometimes I'll jump into the conversation whenever I have time. So there's the link. I sent you the link privately. So
Yes.
as I said, when the day comes that you turn on your iPhone, you can participate. I don't know. I think you probably could do it from your desktop too, if you'd like. Anyway, feel free, everybody, to jump on in. Sunday morning for our 11 o'clock show.
We'll be here.
Okay, so Sunday morning coffee with Chaffee and Rayo, or if you prefer, coffee with Rayo and Chaffee, or if you prefer tea with Rayo and Chaffee, or cocoa. Um, is there anything else I'm missing here? A good vodka?
There was a very funny bit that Bob Hope and Jimmy Durante did because they were both owners of rather large proboscises, and
Yes.
uh, and so they're going back and forth. Who's the one who gets all the girls? And Bob Hope says Hope and Durante, and then Durante says, "Who's the one who has all the talent?" He says Durante and Hope, whatever. And then they go back and forth with this, and they finally say, Bob Hope says, "Who's the one with all the money?" And Bob Hope says,
Bing
"Crosby."
Crosby. By the way, from that honeymooners episode is the wonderful poem "Pins and Needles, Needles and Pins." It's a happy man that grins.
Right.
Exactly.
When the tides of life turn against you and the current upsets your boat, don't worry about things that might have been. Just lay on your back
Back
and
and
float.
float. That's right. All right, so I'll see you Sunday morning. Everybody have a safe weekend, and we'll see you on Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern time.
Yes.
Bye.